Mass suicide in Jonestown cult, the biggest non-natural human loss of American citizens until 9/11, 1978. In November 1978, 909 Americans killed themselves by taking cyanide.
A thin TV screen, only 4 inches thick, with an automatic timing device to record TV programs for later viewing is the wave of the future as shown at the Home Furnishings Market in Chicago, Illinois, on June 21, 1961.
A young skateboarder in Los Angeles.
1974, for interest's sake, the kid on the skateboard would now be in his early 50s, the 2 women in the bikinis would be in their late 50s/early 60s.
19-year-old Shigeki Tanaka was a survivor of the bombing of Hiroshima and went on to win the 1951 Boston Marathon.
The crowd was silent as he crossed the finished line. Policewoman Florence Coberly preparing for undercover work luring rapists in Los Angeles, 1952. She was put to the task almost certainly in response to a specific serial rapist named Joe Para.
A butterfly lands on the face of a resting Bosnian Serb soldier near the eastern Herzegovina town of Konjic. 1995.
Traveler on a forest road in Japan, late 1800s, early 1900s. A father's hands presses against the window of a bus carrying his tearful son and wife to safety during the siege of Sarajevo.
November 10, 1992.
The siege of Sarajevo was the longest siege of a capital city in the history of modern warfare. This famous photo by Jimmy Syme that illustrates the class divide in pre-war Britain. 1937, 2 are dressed in the Harrow School uniform including waistcoat, top hat, boutonniere, and cane, and 3 nearby wearing the plainclothes of pre-war working-class youths. Queen Elizabeth II driving Prince Charles and Princess in 1957. Civil rights activist and the first African-American to attend the University of Mississippi, James Meredith grimaces in pain as he pulls himself across Highway 51 after being shot in Hernando, Mississippi on June 6, 1966. Bill Murray at Elvis's funeral in 1977. Kids jump from a second-story window onto mattresses in Newcastle. 1979, Glenn Murtha and his brother jump from an abandoned house's second-story window.
Pope St. John Paul II meets with Mehmet Agca, the man who attempted to assassinate him. December 27, 1983. Agca shot John Paul II 2 years prior to this photo, but fortunately the Pope survived. Segregated ward for women at the city prison in New Orleans, Louisiana by Leonard Freed. 1963. Daytona Beach in 1957. Bobby Orr of the Boston Bruins sailing through the air after being tripped, or had just scored the game-winning goal for the Stanley Cup. 1970, it was an overtime goal in Game 4. Bruins won the series 4-0. Japanese soldier about to commit suicide with a grenade against his head while an Australian soldier watches, New Guinea, December 18, 1942. The various types of aircraft operational in the U.S. Air Force fly in a single formation over the Gulf Coast, Florida in 1956. Manual laborers confront a military policeman at a gold mine in Brazil by Sebastião Salgado. 1986, in January 1979 farmer Genesio Ferreira de Silva hired a geologist to investigate whether gold he found on his property was part of a larger deposit. Cheyenne Woman by Edward Curtis. 1904. 3 queens in mourning at the funeral for King George VI, who died in 1952. The photo shows, from left to right, Princess Elizabeth, the new queen, Queen Mary, the king's mother, and Queen Elizabeth, the king's wife, on their way into the chapel where the king's body lay in state. FIBA allowed professional basketball players to compete in the Olympics for the first time at the 1992 Games. U.S. chess prodigy Bobby Fischer playing 50 opponents simultaneously at his Hollywood hotel on April 12, 1964. He won 47, lost 1, and drew 2. One of the world's first underwater photographs by Louis Boutin. 1893, the craziest thing about underwater photos during this era was generating enough light for the camera to register the image. They would use a couple of small barges filled with flash powder and synchronized with the camera.